Hi, my name is Ryan Sloan, and I want to welcome you to this episode of the Gear Cage. And kind of like one of our other shows here recently about producing an album and kind of planning it out, I wanted to take a minute and talk about one of the latest projects I had worked on. I thought this might be a good way to kind of tell you guys a little bit about myself as we develop this channel further, and also just talk about the process of making these albums and kind of the thoughts that go through our heads as we're working on them. And I do have some notes here to kind of help me keep my place. So for me personally, I started, playing music and recording when I was a teenager. Started your typical teenage basement band or garage band, and was doing that thing for a long time. And that led to, being interested in that in college and pursuing a degree in audio production and things of that nature. So then when I graduated college, I actually left to work in the music industry and still work there in the gear side, selling equipment to people. So that's kind of my day job here. And when it came to making records and producing records, I actually never really aspired to do that, but I think it kind of found me as I was just out there kind of doing my thing. So I never really aspired to be someone doing this kind of thing, but I just felt like I had to when certain things happened in my life. So, kind of what were those things? Really, it's usually a matter of hearing something, hearing somebody's demo where I'm just like, okay, I have no choice. We have to produce this. Like, this is so good. We have to get it out there to a wider audience. Even if that wider audience is 500 or 1,000 people or 10,000 people, more than 5 people that had been hearing something, that was kind of my end goal. So the first time that happened, back in around 2010, was with somebody named Jayson. And in fact, Jayson will actually be on the channel doing some videos here in the future. So I came across Jayson through a coworker who had played with him on some of these songs. And in fact, a few videos ago, actually on the Apollo giveaway video at the end, you can hear one of the tracks from that record. And his name is Jayson Angove, and he goes by Humble Wolf out there. And I just heard some of his songs, and I was so just taken with just the rawness of the energy and the emotion in the tracks, and honestly the sound. He had a really cohesive, interesting sound on many levels because he could do acoustic well, he could do rock well, and he just had just a real knack for writing great songs. So Unboxed Records, as it was called at the time, was born, and Jayson flew out to see me, and over the course of about a week to a week and a half, he more or less single-handedly recorded the whole record for the most part. His buddy Paul did play drums on the record, but Jayson even played on some drum tracks, and he did the bass tracks, he did the guitar tracks, vocals, keyboards, pretty much you name it, he played across the board. And we'll play a sample from this record now called Paper Thin, so you can hear that going in the background.
And the future looks brighter than it ever did before. I think you're smart, I think you're fast, I think that you can make it last. You've got the world up on a string. We were told we could trust you, that you would understand. But with all your sweet lies, it didn't go as planned. Another night in the city that I'm wasted. My heart is lost and shining.
So once we got that record released, we actually came across a few other people that we were really inspired by, and we really wanted to get out there. And it was interesting for me because all of these people had a different vibe. So when I go to create a record, I'm not necessarily looking to create the most pristine thing like Sony might release or something like that. I like it to reflect the artist, and I like it to tell a story. And you'll hear, as we listen to some of these audio samples, you can kind of hear this this sound that the records will have, it's all different from record to record. And it's not just the gear and the people that we're working with, but it's just that artist's creative vision coming through. And that's something that I really like about making records. They all have their own unique fingerprint that lets you know it's them. So when you listen to a Humble Wolf record, you can kind of hear the sonic cohesiveness and elements in Jayson's records, or with some of our other artists. Shortly after Jayson's record, we worked on a record called Paper Doll by Hilary Hand. And that was a really interesting record to me. We managed a lot of that process actually remotely on this record, and we're guiding the mixing and tracking decisions and track listing remotely. But that record turned out fantastic. Hilary's an amazing, amazing songwriter, and the visual nature of her songs really stood out to me. So much so that we made that as a play to do music licensing with her work. And in fact, her work actually got featured on ABC and MTV and many, many shows. And I'll play a sample of some of the songs from that record too in the background here. In fact, let's play one right now so you can hear what we're talking about.
I was made of paper, my lines were folded by you. Please take me back together and tell me what I should do. Fake your smile, maybe a while till your heart stops. Take me away and don't say we'll be back again one day. I'll be your best friend, I'll be your lover, I'll marry you and be your treasure to discover.
So you can hear the visual kind of idea of these records. It's got this interesting, mysterious energy that's playing back. Some of the songs remind me of a carnival, like we're at this dark, ominous carnival. But her haunting vocals and just the production on the record was just very interesting and visual, which is why she, I think, was able to get so many licensing deals on that particular EP. Jayson was also able to get some licensing deals through CBS and through some other avenues that was helpful for him. And we'll talk about music licensing in the future because I think it is an important part of developing as an artist, especially in this modern era when there's so much video content out there that needs music with it. So we'll definitely talk about that a little bit later. But staying on the kind of history here of things that I've worked on, after that we jumped into a country record actually by Stacey Stork. So we did her Bad History record. Really enjoyed that one. And Stacey was actually close to us. Hilary was in Colorado, and Jayson is actually in Sacramento, California. So we're working with people from all over the US actually. But Stacey was local to us, and that allowed me to spend a lot more time on her record, kind of polishing the sound that we were going for and the songs and helping her develop more. And that actually developed into a long line of shows. So, we did, probably over 100 shows in just a few years regionally, from benefits to clubs, larger scale kind of concert venues like auditoriums and all of that. So that was a really cool experience to be able to kind of see that particular world in a more professional scale than we had.
There's things on my mind, they're way more than they should. Everything you spit out is now misunderstood. What's the point in me talking if you just close down? Can't label me on just one night, so I'm letting go and doing wrong just right.
Now, while all this was happening, I met at my day job a man named Jeff. And, I'm usually talking to my customers, and we're talking about what they're working on, what they're doing, what their goals are for, music. Are they just playing for fun? Are they looking to create a career out of this? What are you wanting to do? And I ran across Jeff, and he was just an interesting guy who had such an upbeat nature and such a positive outlook on everything. You could actually feel it through the phone coming through, which was fascinating to me because there aren't a lot of people out there that can do something like that. And as we got to chatting, he said, "Hey, you should check out my music." And that's a common thing that comes up, and I do enjoy checking out my customers' music. But this time, when I checked it out, I was blown away by his release. And in fact, he did it all himself. But, usually you can tell when someone's doing it all themselves because they don't have all the mixing chops to get everything to sound the way it should or feel the way it should to the end user. But Jeff, he's actually a contractor by trade or a construction worker. He took that same attention to detail that a contractor would have and actually applied it to his music. And that was really fascinating to me because I could hear the effort in it, and I could hear just the quality of the work, the quality of the writing. That album was called This Writer's Song. And here's a link to, or a clip here so you can check out some of the tracks from that record.
Gotta give me a ticket for a steel train. Ain't got no money for a fast plane. I am lost and through. I am lost and through. Gotta find a way to get to another place. Don't matter to me, it could be any place. He said go and tell it on the mountain. Yell it to the seas. That's where I wanna be, where I wanna be. So help me, God, from this stronghold. It seems I can't move on my own. My shady tree has deserted me. I am torn up, sweet Jezebel. Can't you tell you trampled this hall?
So I heard this record and I reached out to Jeff and said, "Hey, I'd really like to work with you in a similar way that I had with Jayson, with Hillary, with Stacy." And we were working and we were really close probably back in 2012 or so, 2013, to coming to some terms to work on a record together. But unfortunately, it just kind of fell apart. And at the same time, I was starting a virtual instrument company called VI Labs that specializes in virtual pianos. You might have heard of Ravenscroft or the True Keys pianos line. So we were doing that product at the time, and I was working on that and kind of focusing on launching all of that and coordinating it. So unfortunately, he kind of fell through the cracks, and we still spoke, of course, and we're still talking about gear and things like that. But as far as working on an album together, it kind of faded away. Even though we would talk and I would mention, hey, let's definitely work on a record at some time. He would say the same thing every once in a blue moon. And years went by until I would say probably late 2018 or very early 2019. And I was checking because I always like to check to see if he had come out with anything new. He had actually come out with a record a few years prior called Vocal Vibe Radio, which was also just another stellar work. And in fact, he came out with another record after this writer's song called Pen. So actually, he's a pretty prolific writer and engineer. I mean, he's doing all these things himself. It's just amazing the amount of work he's able to do essentially by himself, putting all these records out. So we get to late 2018, early 2019, and I'm just checking on YouTube to see what he's doing because Jeff doesn't really get into social media much anymore these days. In fact, he deleted his Facebook page. And I heard a new song that he had put out, and it was just by itself, just a song called We Will Be. And I heard it, and I'm just floored and blown away by his development as an artist. You can just hear the growth, and he just came, leaps and bounds from where he used to be, which was already at a great place. So that led me to message him and just say, hey, it's time for us to do this record. It's time for us to make this happen. We've been talking about it for so many years now, over 5 years. Let's make this happen. And the stars had aligned with him too. And he said, yes, let's definitely make it happen. Let's make this record. And the new record, Hypebeast, was born. Now, the way Jeff tells the story, he has a lot of kids, actually. So he's a very, very busy guy on top of his, full-time career. He's raising all of these children. So finding time to write a record in the midst of all of that, as parents know, is hectic and chaotic at best. So he just hadn't had a lot of time to write the record or write songs that would be part of the record. But in having this conversation, he said, you know what, I'm going to make it happen. And it just so happened that he had a large contracting deal come through where, he's basically going to be able to focus on that and not have to worry about lining up other jobs for that year. So as this is all developing, unfortunately, that actually fell through. And he lost that job and now had to plan around, all the work he'd been turning away basically is gone now. So he had to go out and find, work to support his family. But before he was doing that, he said, you know what, we're definitely going to make this record. We're going to make it happen. And he went to work effectively writing the record. And I think he wrote all of the songs that are on the record within about a 2-week window. He said he just closed himself off in his dark, workspace or workroom, nothing but the glow of a laptop screen and him holding his guitar in his hand, and went to work writing. And he wrote song after song after song. And then he would send the songs over and I would listen and we would critique the songs. We would decide if a song was going to make it on the record or not. Maybe any lyric changes, any part changes, any order changes. And this went on and on for actually a few months until we had a roster of what the album was going to consist of, at least in our minds at the time. So we had this rough idea. Then we started talking about the budget of the record and basically just our expectations for the record. And that's where the genesis of the idea for the Planning Your Record video came from, because it's something that I've done, it's something that he's done, but it's something that I think a lot of people didn't do. So that's why we were talking about that. Now, Jeff, being a solo artist, didn't have really a band. So next I had to go find, the players of the album. And, who else are we going to pull from but people that we know, people that I've worked with in the past. So I was able to pull from just a few great players that I knew locally, as well as Jayson from Humble Wolf to come help play and come help document the record with video. And Jayson's friend, Ryan Hernandez, which is a very amazing, prolific musician. He actually was playing pedal steel on the record, as well as some piano. So just an amazing assortment of talent we were able to pull from California, from all over the United States, Indiana here, and go down to Nashville to record at Sputnik Sound with Mitch Dane. And, that's something else. We wanted to work with somebody who's done a lot of records in the same sonic vibe, and also people who had the same, taste and flavor sonically that we did. So when you go into Sputnik Sound, it just oozes vibe, basically. It's a fantastic studio. Mitch and his team are amazing and so hospitable. They're so great to work with. And honestly, a big part of how the record turned out was just because of how awesome Mitch was to work with. and the vibe of the studio. And I'll put some pictures of the studio up so you can see it. I think even the pictures actually tell part of the story, from the vintage Neve console to the Burl converters to all the vintage gear. It just really lends itself to that sound we were going for. And even though it wasn't maybe as great for the record in terms of it being pristine, we basically recorded the album live. It was kind of Jeff and I's idea to have it be this cohesive feel where even if something is, a mistake happens in the recording, we're actually going to kind of leave a lot of that stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that we didn't toil over, the mixing process. In fact, we ended up having Mitch mix the record for us, and we must have sent him 200 emails with revisions and change notes and everything to really get to the sound we were looking for. But even in doing that, we weren't necessarily looking for the most pristine and perfect record. We just wanted it to vibe a certain way. Part of the idea behind this record was to create an experience, not only for the listener, of course, sonically, but also for the people involved. And in Jeff's mind, the adventure of recording the record and organizing that was actually as important, if not more important, than the actual record release itself. For him, just having the experience of flying out to Nashville, recording this record with extremely talented musicians in a live fashion, having the late nights, with whiskey and relaxing with everyone and talking about, the record, talking about music, enjoying meals together, going out, doing all of those things. That was actually kind of the peak, basically, of the record for him. Anything else that came afterwards in terms of any notoriety or success or anything wasn't really a big deal. That was just icing on the cake. And as somebody who's working on records and producing records, to me, those are the exact people that we need to really help elevate and push. Because those are the people that are doing it for the right reasons, because the music is inside of them and they're trying to get it out. And in the case of Jeff, the music that comes out is just always fantastic. The visual nature of his music, the storytelling, his talent in singing and playing guitar, mixed with the talent of the musicians, just really resonates with me and with the people that have heard the record so far. So again, those are the people that we really try to elevate out there. That's kind of the story of Hypebeast as far as it all is concerned here. I'm going to play some more videos of the record here, but it does come out here on 2/20/2020. So I'd love for you to check it out. Check Jeff out because he truly is an inspirational, very soulful, kind musician. And the funny thing about Jeff is he's really doing music because it's something that he loves and is passionate about. He's actually not looking for fame or fortune. He just wants to put this out because he can, because it's in him to put out, and he feels like he does need to put it out. So definitely check out some of the videos and behind the scene music from the record, and then check out the record on your favorite service, be it Spotify, iTunes, whatever. And let me know what you think of the record if you do get a chance to listen. And who knows, maybe one day our paths will cross and I'll work with you on a record. In fact, if you have your music, send it to me. I love listening to what people are working on. And I typically only work on records, where I love the musician, love the music they're doing. But by all means, send it over and I'll definitely check it out. I hope you got something interesting out of this video. Again, my name is Ryan Sloan for the Gear Cage, and we'll see you again soon.
Lockers need to hold memories of old. High school was a time for men to be the fools that they are now. To money we now bow, possessions and their fleeting vanity. I held exactly the wrong things up high, told everyone living can't make up my mind. Should I stay here? Should I go there? Should I just drive around? Destinations unknown. I can't keep from going. Nobody else knows all of my sins. You drink whiskey and I drink gin. Although we're different, we're one and the same. Solitude, our version of fame. A moment of memory, sometime forever. A feeling I have when we're together. A moment of memory, sometime forever. A feeling I have when we're together. Getting old is not a sin. But why do you hold it in like heaven? That's the way it's been. You should look at the other side tonight. Say goodbye to all these wrinkled lines. I've been known to shock a few simply in the way I do. Hearts filled with the pain for you. Hate me now, I'm having fun, bringing peace to everyone. All roads lead back home to you. Sailing across the ocean, trying to find the other sea. Looking for adventure, trying to find the other me. The clouds settled in, they were thick, and the wind was set free. If I get to land, gonna plant my feet and just be. The air inside me tight, I hold. You will be my greatest broken thing. Broken wing. I will let you walk on me. I will let you tear me down. Make something new, don't tire. Wasn't there before, you're not alive.